Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Good
Hi,
evening.
ladies.
Good
How's
evening.
everybody doing
Good
today,
evening.
this
Good.
evening?
Good.
Welcome to the Woman to Woman show on the New U Nation Network. We are your co-host for this evening's topic, and we are grateful and thankful that you are here. And I am running in, so if my energy seems high, y'all forgive me because I'm literally coming in from a flight from Orlando, Florida. So I am gonna let the ladies start by going around and introducing themselves and saying what they are grateful for on this day. And I'm looking right at you, Sheila. So I'm gonna start with you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Isom. I am an insurance claims professional, and I also have a few side businesses where I am a color street stylist. We sell nail polish strips, and I am also a notary public. And I am grateful and thankful, just happy for peace and quiet. Sometimes you do have to just sit down. Sometimes you have to be by yourself. Sometimes you just have to be around a small group of people to realize that there is nothing like peace and quiet to settle your mind, your body, your spirit, and gives you the opportunity to refresh for the next day.
Wow, nice. All right, Regina.
Hi, I am Regina Booker, the owner of Season and Fabulous with Women Over 50, How to Get Unstuck and Continue with Your Life. Your life is not over after 50. There's many, many things that you can do and continue to do. And we will have retreats on doing that and just, talking through a lot of things and getting through things or like-minded women to continue your journey. I am grateful for big piggybacking off of Sheila over a holiday weekend. Usually, I'm trying to call everybody, saying everything. I was just still because you know what? I didn't feel like it. Nothing wrong with it, and I didn't feel guilty. It was just my peace of mind. I just wanted to be still, and I was good with it. And I was good
Nice.
with making that decision with no guilt. So I'm good. I am grateful for being okay with where I was at peace.
Nice. And Netta.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Manetta Fields. I am the owner of Holistically Motivated LLC. I am also a certified coach specializing in utilizing the Gallup Strengths Assessment to help us hone in on what makes us special, what makes us unique. I am grateful for health and strength, not just for myself, but for everyone who's connected to me. I'm just grateful for that.
Mm, nice. Gina.
Hi, y'all. My name is Regina Howard Norman, and I am known as Chef Regina of Regina's Baking Academy, as well as the owner of RHN Unlimited, which is a awesome opportunity for me to work with women, parents, and families in empowering their youth so they can be the best versions of themselves. And what I am grateful for today is that I feel rested.
Mm,
Similar to Sheila and Regina, although I did have a Thanksgiving dinner at home, it wasn't stressful, and we I wasn't trying to do a whole lot, and I got to really enjoy my family. I got to sit with my children and just have the energy to engage versus being worn out from cooking this and running here and doing stuff till the wee hours of the morning. So I'm grateful for learning how to pace myself,
Mm.
and I'm grateful for the fact that we were able to go spend time with my mom, which was so much fun. And so I'm grateful to be here with us and what we're going to talk about this evening.
Okay. And I am Theodora Carter. I am a certified life and career coach and also an HR consultant. So I am the owner of T Carter Coaching and Consultant. And I am grateful for, there's so many things. I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to go for a quick trip to Florida to visit my mom and spend some time with my sister who also came in. I am grateful for neighbors who pick up your packages when they get delivered, right? And I am grateful that on the way back, God blessed me to sit next to a mother and her child who had Down syndrome.
Mm.
And why I say I feel blessed is because I knew right away she was anxious from when she sat down because she started apologizing. I said, listen, we good. Don't even worry about it, right? And so at the end of the trip, she was like, "Thank you for helping, calm him down and all of that." But I really was sitting there and I was like, you know what, God, thank you because you knew what this mother needed, right? And you knew who this mother needed to sit by because her
Mm-hmm.
husband was sitting separated from each other. So I am grateful for that. So I am grateful, and I'm grateful that I made it back safely. I traveled to Orlando and back from Orlando safely, and this is my first time flying Frontier, and it was not a bad experience. So I'm also grateful for that. And so, for
That's
those,
important.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, these airlines, man, the flights were outrageous. I was like, you know what? Let me call a couple of my girls who fly Frontier, and it was like for a quick trip, it works, and it did. So I'm grateful for that. But I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm glad that I made it back in time to be here tonight. And for those of you who are just joining, you have joined the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. And we are excited about the topic we have tonight. And Gina, I'm probably going to toss it to you to start us off because this topic came from you. As I recall, it was what's in your pantry, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what do you do when you're trying to work yourself out of a slump? So tell me, what made you think of that topic?
So thank you for that, Theo. When I was writing my chapter, I'm part of an awesome anthology called "It's Your Time, Sis," and the name of my chapter is "Restocking Your Pantry." And what made me think about restocking, it meant that something had to go. I had to let go of some things. So the things that I was dealing with at the time was questioning some of the choices I've made. Um, you know, with my children, things as a mom, we want to do things perfect and just think about some things that I want to do better or wish I could have. So I had to let go of the negative thoughts that would keep coming up, even though I was actively doing positive things. Um, I kept being drawn back to the negative things actually someone else said about me that I didn't say about myself. But because of who they were in my life, it made a long term impact. So restocking the pantry meant that I had to get rid of, finally confront that what I was told was not the truth. And it came from a person that wasn't in their best space when they said those things. But because of the way it happened and I was young and such, I didn't see it from there. So it took maturity and becoming fully aware of what I bring to the table, who I serve, that what was said to me wasn't about me. Um, so I had to relook at my thoughts, relook at what I was holding on to, and understand that I really wanted to make a change that was more sustainable. I had to let some things go, but I also realized that I couldn't do it by myself because I tried for a while,
Mhm.
and doing it by myself didn't work. So one of the ways that I was able to get out of my slump, restocking my pantry meant that I needed help pulling some things out so I wouldn't be too quick to grab it back. You know how it's like your favorite. If you know, like if you look, oh, I like that spice. Oh, I'm going to use it, but you ain't used it since for the first time you bought it. You used it that one time, and it's been sitting in your pantry. So I had to realize that thought doesn't serve me because when I think about it, how does it make me feel? But how do I get from that? So I knew there was some things I needed to do. I also realized that it wasn't a one and done process, right? We think because we become aware, oh, I gotta do some stuff, that it's just gonna snap into place. No, there's the work. You gotta do the work to have sustainable change. And so I realized that I needed to have a few things in my pantry, in my spiritual and mental pantry, which meant that I had to literally get help, like a coach, like a therapist, like good friends that told me the truth in love, and get rid of some people and thoughts that weren't to my benefit. Um, so that's a little bit about what I talk about as far as restocking my pantry was concerned, and letting
Wow.
go.
So that's good. That's good because I think all of us here can can relate, right? To first of all, I love the analogy, right? Restocking your pantry, right? It's kind of like, rebuilding your toolkit. That's why it's called,
Absolutely,
right, toolkit. But
absolutely,
I love the thought of restocking your pantry. Like even when you kind of equate it to someone that's thinking about changing their habits and what they eat, right? So what are the things that you're no longer gonna buy? Like Netta shaking her head because I know what she's thinking, right? When we go through that process of making sure we are using the right things for our body and eating the right things. So, Netta, talk a little bit about what that means to you when you hear restocking your pantry.
I love the fact that Regina spoke about releasing and replacing. And so, in terms of releasing things, it starts again with the thoughts you talked about. You releasing thoughts as well as people. So, but in the instance of our health, you have to assess, is this serving me or not? All things are serving. Is it a good serving or bad serving, right? Is this helping me get to the health goals I desire, or is this holding me back? One of the things I like to say is this about wellness or illness? It's one or
Mm-hmm.
the other. And so your choice has to match your goal if you're ever going to arrive at the goal.
Mm,
You can't say that I want to be healthy and then make unhealthy choices. They don't match. So the commitment to restocking the pantry, assessing what's in there, what needs to go. Do I need to even replace this thing? Right? If it's not serving you, you probably don't need to replace it. You just need to
mm,
start over. Start with something that's going to build foundationally. In restocking that pantry, I'm thinking about food in terms of cooking as well. If you don't
mm,
have, you don't have what you need, y'all know how we improvise in that kitchen. We might not have this thing, but we can throw this thing in there. So, but if all of the options available are serving you for that common goal, you can pull what you want from it. So it's going to
mm,
be important to look at what's in that pantry and make sure each item is going to lead you to that end goal,
mm,
whatever that may look like. And that's a beautiful thing, too. We all have different palates and desires. So we get to choose what we put in that pantry.
yeah, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Sheila, Regina, what are your thoughts? Like when you think of restocking your pantry, like what's the first thing that pops in your head?
Um, I think I was kind of looking at, do you look at it from a standpoint of whether or not that pantry is full, half full, or is it empty?
Mm,
Where are you starting from, right? Because if it's full, what is it full of?
Mm.
Right? Is it full of all of those things, that all the tools and resources that you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Um, is it, are there some ingredients missing? Like that was talking about how we can improvise in the kitchen, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
may not have everything that's in that pantry, but do you have enough to give you that to pull yourself up? Or is
Mm.
it totally empty, right? Is are we bare bones? And I'm sure that we can all attest to a time when our cabinets have been empty, right?
Mm.
There weren't even any dust bunnies in there, right?
Mm.
That's how bad things have gotten. Um, so, what do you need to do to start putting back those things that are essential to your well being into that cabinet? And what are those things, right? So, you got to, what is your perspective about your pantry?
Mm. Wow. Okay. Good. Good stuff.
So pretty much everyone has said everything. So mine would just be your mindset, you know, which is what everyone has said. Like, let's assess our mindset. Do we need to reset our mindset? Are we there? Do we basically, what all of us have said, do we need to take some things out? Do we need to adjust some things? Do we need to take away the noise? Do we need to release some people? Do we need to bring some people in? Do we need therapy? Do we, what do we need? What adjustments need to be made? And basically, what are our goals? So that's what I think of. Do we love ourselves?
Mm.
Giving ourselves grace? Are we willing to take our power back?
Mm.
You know,
Good
where are
stuff.
we, yeah, where are we willing to start and what do we want to do?
That's good stuff. Cause like I was thinking along the same thing. I think I kind of got um, drawn into the, figuring out what is it that you need to do to get out of this slump, right? What
Mhm.
is it that you need to do to move forward? Like I remember the pivotal moment in my journey, right? Where I got up one day and I was like, you could either choose to stay here or you could choose to heal.
Mhm.
Right? And that's where I birthed healing is a choice, right? And that was my journey, as Gina mentioned, to where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to therapy. I'm gonna get me a coach. Like really, just deciding to make an investment in myself, right? So I
Mhm.
think also it's at that moment when you're tired of being tired, right? And when you realize that something isn't working and I'm not quite sure what, but I need some help to figure it out, right? And I think
Mhm.
for me, it was important to stop saying what I couldn't do because of what I didn't have and say, how am I going to make it possible to invest in the thing that I need to make myself whole again, if that makes
Mhm.
sense, right? I remember saying to one of my girlfriends, I'm like, I got to figure out what's wrong with me. And she was like, nothing is wrong with you. And I was like, I'm not saying anything is wrong with me as a person, but I'm saying that there's something going on that I keep making the same choices that are leading to the same outcome that are not benefiting me,
Mm,
right? And so, for me, like when you say like what's in your pantry and working your way out of a slump, that's what I kind of thought of, like, right? When you look in the pantry and you're like, okay, I got a lot of stuff in here, like some of you already said, but is it all working? Right? Is it going to do what I need it to do? Is it going to produce the dish that I'm trying to produce? Right? Is it going to give me the flavor that I really want? Right? So that I could get the product that I'm trying to get. And so that's what I think of when I think of that. So this is really cool. So for those of you who are just joining us, this is the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. And forgive us if we sometimes forget you are there because we're just in our own conversation and flow and going. So, we are grateful if you are here. Thank you for joining us. We hope something that we say will hit you in a way that will help you. And as we always say, we're here for the one. So hopefully we will say something that will help one person on tonight's call. And so, Gina, what are some of the other things, like when you sat down to write your chapter, right? Like, for me, like, I never realized that was the title, right? Like, because I still need to get your book. But I love how you said restocking your pantry, because it aligns with your passion, right?
Right.
Which is cooking and and all of that. But I love how you use that analogy, right? And so what was your journey like? You know, share as much as you feel comfortable sharing, but what was your
Yeah,
journey
yeah.
with place?
So I think actually someone of very dear and I respect, she was doing some work with me. She said, Regina, I need you to write your biography. And she said, just let it flow. I said, all right. But she also knew I had to give a gab, but it also shows on paper. So as I was writing, she was like, yeah, Regina, you got a lot there. You got a lot there. You know, you got a lot there. I said, okay, but you said to write it out. She said, yeah, no, that's good. Keep on writing. Let it flow, let it flow. But so we get to the point where you can scale back, where you could, bring it in, because your biography is not the book, right? Your biography is supposed to talk about what you bring to the table and the highlights of what you want to show and that sort of thing. But as I was writing my biography, I was like, wow, I was touching on stuff that I didn't know was still there,
Mm,
and some things that I kind of like pushed aside because it was like, you know what, I'm busy being a mom, a wife, a daughter, manager. So the stuff I thought that I dealt with, I just kind of put it on the side. But as I was writing my biography, certain things kept coming up. I was like, oh, okay. And then I shared it with two people that I really respect. And I was like, wow, this is really more than a biography. And maybe this should even be a chapter, or thinking about writing it down. Because if I'm going through this and I'm somewhat okay, what about other folks that have experienced similar things but maybe be afraid to um, put
mm,
it out there? So I combined my love for cooking and teaching. And definitely because it's a family thing. On my mom and my daddy's side, everybody cooks, serve own foods, all of that. I said, why not put it in a book? And um, my good friend Shaquan Hoke, she reached out to me for the third time for her third anthology, and she was like, Regina, you doing this? I'm like, first of all, so I didn't want Pookie to come out. I was like, I'm doing what? So she said, yeah, I'm doing this and this. I asked her what was the name of the book, and she said, it's your time, sis. I was like, okay, Lord, I'm doing it. And so I just went ahead and looked at what I was putting in that chapter, and just so many things came up.
mm,
And it just gave me an opportunity to look over the span of where I was at the moment, my children, their achievements, the things they're working through. Where am I as a person? Because basically, when I became a mom, that was my job. I
mm,
know I had to, I had everything I did really rotated around being the best version of a mom I could be. So the job I chose was important because I had to be available for my children. Um, Being present for them and understanding their education and their spiritual foundation was important. So everything I did, once I became a mom, for one, however many came after that, they needed what I had. So I had to always step up. Even if I wasn't all the way all right inside, that didn't matter. I had to be there for them. And so the reason why I felt it was important to share my chapter was because there were some things I had to get through. I had to grow through. And then I had to reassess where I was after becoming a mom, and now all my children are grown. So what's happening now, right? Because they're gone. So what does that mean for me now?
Mm,
Am I defined by the title of mom, or do I find Regina is again? And what does that look like? What was I dealing with or not dealing with? So all of those things came up, and I decided that it makes sense to um, think about it in a way of restocking your pantry, because there's so many things that everyone said, from Netta to Sheila to Regina and you, about what that means to them, right? And
mm,
so I knew what it meant for me was some things had to be let go, some things had to be um I like what Sheila said, certain things don't gotta be replaced, they gotta get gone. Like
mhm,
you don't need it. So I had to realize what needed to be let go and what needed to be replaced. Um, some things were stale, so stinking thinking, negative stuff
mhm,
that needed to go. I didn't need, what I needed to replace it with was positive.
Mhm.
Looking at the accomplishments I have made.
mhm,
So all the things that said that weren't correct, I get to look at it from the eyes of my father versus the eyes of man, because the eyes of man change every time, but
Mm-hmm.
God's word never changes. It remains the same. So those are the eyes I started looking through as I started restocking my pantry, and I knew there were certain things I needed, certain tools to get me where I needed to go, um, and so that's a big part of what I share.
So I think that's great because what I was thinking as you were talking is one of the things I want to hit on, right, is identity, right?
Mhm.
Because I will say, like, when I'm working with my clients, one of the questions I ask is like, who are you, right? Outside of your title, outside of the title of mother and wife and CEO and executive or whatever, right? So that whole piece of identity that you talked about, right? Of, because so many women are, once you have children, right? You take on that role of I am so and so mother, right?
Right.
And that becomes the dominant force in your life. So, all of you have children, right? I don't, right? How has that transition and or when did that transition occur for you? When you were like, okay, I now don't have these little babies that I need to take care of. I got adults in college, they're working, right? How did you make that transition to this is who I am, right? I am no longer Netta mother. I am Netta, right? Or Sheila, or Regina. So,
For me, it happened, I think, when they went to college, more so than anything, because at that point, they are away from home more so than at home. And, that is a glaring example of, okay, we don't need you as much. um, they need us always, but in different ways. And so I think that's when it happened for me. And I started to realize that I still wanted to serve. I still had so much to give because I feel like that's what God created me for, was to serve, but I serve in a different way and I serve a broader audience. But those times in motherhood prepared me for that.
mm,
Mhm.
My experiences I could bring forward and always serve from a place of love. And then in learning myself and serving others differently, it helped me show up differently for my now adult children,
mm,
Mm.
to see them as their own individual adult person versus let me tell you how to do this, let me tell you how to do that. It went from not so much telling, but suggesting and pointing to resources. So it's definitely a process transitioning from that hands-on mom to the mom who's watching a child make a mistake instead of jumping in, just allowing them to kind of work their way through it, and still so grateful when you get that call to say, can I have your input? So that let me know I did something right because they
mm.
didn't cut me off, right?
So I put a twist on the question as well for all of you, right? So
Uh-oh.
if you were thinking, like, if you were talking to a young woman right now, right? She's starting out, she's raising her kids now, she's trying to figure out how to be a mom, but also be this other person, or purposeful driven person. What I would say guidance would you give to her? Like, how would you help her navigate that?
Oh, I would say, and it's funny too, because I was just having a conversation with someone about this. I would say, make a plan, space things out, and give yourself grace for any alterations to that plan, even if that means totally abandoning that plan for something else. Don't be so rigid, right? And following that plan, we talk all about, time management, desk organization. Everything has to be done in ABCD order, making sure that you are dotting all your I's and crossing your T's. Life is far from that, right? So there's nothing wrong with planning. As a matter of fact, you should be planning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Budget, but make a plan, but stretch things out so
Mm-hmm.
that you don't give yourself realistic time frames.
Mm-hmm.
And again, enough resilience to know that it may not go the way that I had anticipated it, that there are always going to be alternate routes.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always change a plan at any time.
Mm. Great. Anybody else? What guidance or that would you give?
Take your Gallup strengths assessment.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
And the reason for that is it celebrates your uniqueness and removes the need to compare yourself to anyone else and thereby anyone else's journey.
Mm.
A lot of pressure and anxiety comes from comparison.
Mm.
Once you are able to acknowledge, check your own personal pantry of what God put on the shelves in
Mm-hmm.
who you are, get clear on how those show up. Because if you understand what they are, they're going to show up in everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it crosses over from parenthood to other relationships to work relationships, even to how you choose to uh, coordinate a wellness program. All of those things are impacted by how unique you are. Once that's clear, you can thereby create a path that makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yes. Regina, you look like you were about to say something.
Um, yeah, how I would say start transforming from a mother to what, which I've always kind of did my own thing,
Mm-hmm.
incorporating motherhood. But once I wanted to find me, I reconnected with God
Mm.
through um, liturgical dance,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing that that was the path that was going to lead me to where the true me.
Mm.
And it took years. Like Netta said, it was a process. And as I look back, it started from there because there was so many different things when I was in that ministry and so many things that happened in my life and breakdowns and sisterhoods and transitions. And as Sheila said, setbacks and come ups and this was going to happen and that was going to happen that really brought me to the true identity of what I am, the true Regina. And when I look back at it, it was through all of that, through that process. And as I was getting to know, or my deeper relationship with God as I grew, and it was through the dance ministry.
Wow.
So that was a way.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my strength that I learned. And then I did take it with Nana. And I learned some things that way too. But you always are learning. But if I go back to really when I moved to New Jersey and my babies were real baby, I mean, I joined the dance and I drugged them with me
Mhm.
to every ministry and boys at that. That was
Mhm.
all around these women that didn't even want to go. Well, I mean, but they had to go with me.
Mhm.
But that's when I really started finding out who and what I was becoming, what my purpose. And to get to this point, when I found out later on what my purpose would be, which would be with women 50 plus, as I went through my journey.
Mhm. I think it's interesting, right? How each of you share like what guidance you would give, because I feel like you're always a mother, right? I feel like even when your kids are 50, 60, right, whatever, like you're always gonna be a mother, right? So I feel like you've done the work to say, okay, how do I parent, but I also walk and work in my purpose, right? Like Finetta, how do each of you serve in the space that God has ordained you or put you here to serve, recognizing that one of the things that he put you here to do is to be a mother, right?
Well,
Those of you who have children, like that is part of your purpose, right? That is part of your service, right? To raise these young people into adults and then help them navigate adulthood. And so I feel like, what I heard was, at some point you all recognized that your identity wasn't just being a mother, right? But that space that you were in, prepared you for the journey that you're on now.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I heard.
Well,
I, I don't know about,
I would definitely agree. Because one of the things I did as a mom is I cooked for my family. That was something that was I learned from the crib by watching my mom and my grandmother. So it was second nature for me. It wasn't even a thought of what I'm going to do. It was like, uh, I have children. Hello, they got to eat. So who's going to fix the food? Me. That's who. And it wasn't like why. It was like, well, that's what you do. It was like next to breathing. And doing that over the years, over 25 plus years of cooking for my family and stuff, I've really developed a love and appreciation. And I even more so appreciated who my grandmother was, because she taught me through love, through cooking, through taking care of her family, making sure we had food in our bellies, and that, good stuff, healthy stuff, because she was from the old school, from the South. So that love of cooking, and eating well, and knowing that, I was providing good stuff for my children, and I saw it and I see it in their health and how they are now, um, was an extension of what I do now, right? So me loving to teach on cooking and the baking came out of being, part of motherhood. Um, but if I was to say anything to young mothers in their 30s or late 20s coming up, I would say breathe. And what Sheila said, I was thinking it as she was saying it. Give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
Motherhood is an ongoing experience.
Mm-hmm.
There is no perfect way. Um, some things you're gonna do well, and it's gonna come like that. And there's some things you're gonna have to learn to adjust. Um, look at I got help by looking at the moms around me that I thought were doing excellent, and they were able to help me in my journey as a mother. Um, give yourself grace. Link up with like-minded people that want to do well for themselves as well as their family and their children. Because you want that positive reinforcement. You're not alone. There's so many beautiful moms out here. So don't feel like you're by yourself. There's so many mothers out here really want the best for their children. They're married, they want the best for their families and their husbands and such. So don't feel like you're alone. But also, it's okay to need a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be everything all the time.
That's
Sometimes
right.
the best thing you can do is to say, I need an hour or I need 15 minutes for me before I fix a tater, before I tie a shoe, before you tell me about your day. Mama needs a little time, sugar. So let me have, honey, I love you. I love you, but I need some time. It's okay. And it's actually to your betterment to take some time for
Mhm.
yourself because you can be a better mom, a better spouse, a better everything. So don't feel like you got to give it everything and you got nothing left. You got near drop of water in that glass because you didn't give it to everybody. You didn't even fill it up. So take some time for yourself and don't feel guilty for doing
That's
it.
right.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
that's what I
Yeah. I used to sit in my car when I would get off work, half an hour, just sit in the driveway before I went in the house.
Mm.
I just sit in the car. Not every day, but some
Mm.
days. You're right to your point, Gene. I just say I
Mm.
just need. I would turn on some jazz music or some spiritual, whatever one, or just sit sometimes quiet, just in my driveway, 30 minutes, then I would go in the house.
Yeah, I used to do that. And I would do that because I didn't want to take the energy from work or from wherever I was coming from. Like if it wasn't good energy, I didn't want to take it in the house with me. So I
Mhm.
would sit in my car to just like reset.
Yeah.
Which brings me to like the next subject is, how many of us have stayed in a situation, right? A space, right, where you know we needed to be there, but we really didn't want to be there, right? And I'm talking more so about work, right? These 9 to 5, these jobs, these positions, right? That we're in. I am one to say that I've had a thriving career. Like I am blessed. I am thankful. I thank God for the amount of time I spent in HR or the career I've had. But I know there was a point where I was supposed to get out, but I didn't.
Mhm.
Right. And to the point you would say, Regina, is it's never too late to do what
Mhm.
you want to do, right? So I am now, working in the space that I want to work in, HR consultant, all of that. But how many of you have experienced that as being in that? Because I feel like for me, that's where my slump has come from, right? My slump has come from those times when I'm like somewhere where I'm like, oh, God, could you open another door, right? Could you make another way? Um, and and two, I had to get to the point where you know what, guys, like what does the word say? Faith without works, right?
is
Faith
dead.
without, right?
Is dead.
So there was something that I needed to do, right?
Mhm.
But so speak to that. Somebody speak to that. Like, have you experienced something similar?
Mhm.
I definitely. Um, I was at a job that I actually loved. I've been in nonprofit most of my professional career, and this particular one was I was there. After 5 years, I've realized that I felt like I hit my peak. You know, when you've done as much as you can do,
Mm-hmm.
far as breaking records and setting numbers, and even to the point where um, I was able to get a standalone because of the hard work I did. But I also was like weighing out the pros and the cons, and I think maybe I froze because there were opportunities to move. And I had to ask myself, was I using my children? Well, because of the flexibility, was that the excuse? Or was it the fear of if I move into this new environment? So I think what wound up happening was I stayed longer than I needed to or should have. And my children, most of them were in high school at the point, either college, yeah, college or high school. So it was definitely where I didn't need to be where I was working wise. But at the same time, it was like, if I go into this next thing, what's going to happen? So I think the nervousness of what's out there or what's next had me stay longer than I needed to. And then when I did transition, it wasn't exactly the way I thought it would be, but it was the best thing that ever happened. And
Mm,
I still love that organization. It was one of the best agencies I ever worked for, one of the best. And we did a lot of great work there, and I a lot of great work there. Um, but my experience was I had to build up the courage to say there's other things happening outside that I can also lend my talent, my experience, and my time to, and to seek that out. And so that's what gave birth to Regina's Breaking Academy
mm,
and RHN Unlimited. Had I
wow.
still been at that organization, I'd have still been pouring everything into them, my intellectual property and energy, and I wouldn't have been thinking about, well, how can I build this? And while it was a thought, not being there helped me bring it into reality. So sometimes we have to step outside our comfort zone if we really want to stretch and grow.
Mhm.
But where I was gave me the roots and foundations to learn systems better, strategies, and ways. So as I work on my business, I'm transferring some of those same skill sets and things that I did there into formalizing what I do better. So it was still a win, still a
Nice.
win. Yeah, definitely.
Regina or Sheila?
Well, I can tell you that I am actually in that situation now. As in my opener, I talk about the fact that I'm a claims professional. I've been in this industry for 36 years, my first real job out of college. So it's a little bit difficult because you may have had to bounce around. The money was plentiful at one point, and now it's as if the work outweighs the salary. So as again, I talked about a plan, right? I don't know what my plan is. My tagline is that I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, because I want to be able to explore all opportunities. And
Mm,
it's not that I'm concerned about failing at my next venture. I'm more concerned with making sure that it's the right venture for me, that
mm,
I can make successful in terms of whatever that looks like financially, um, comfortability, giving me that peace of mind, um, giving me that daily joy, right?
mm,
Where I don't feel like I'm working like a dog all the
mm,
time and I'm enjoying it. So I'm in that situation now, but I'm working towards trying to make the changes. Because there are a
mm,
lot of external factors that I have to consider. Again, being in the same type of industry for 36 years and then trying to make a shift into something totally different,
mm,
especially at a later age, because not only am I talking about a career shift, but I'm also looking at being closer to retirement age than,
mm,
I was previously. So, um, while the options may be limited for me, nothing is off limits.
mhm.
So,
But but
you know,
what you said earlier, right, is really you're right now creating your plan,
hmm
right? Like you're in the midst of coming up with your strategy and your plan for making that transition and doing it in, because that's the other thing, right? None of us have made the transitions that we made at a whim, right? Like all of us have had to, I would say, experiment, right?
yeah,
Try some stuff out, come up with goals and plans. All of us just work with a coach, right? So like I think you're just at that point of figuring out how you're gonna do it, right?
right. Right. And getting even back to what, when Netta had talked about, making that transition. in the phases of motherhood when you're getting to that point. You know, same thing. My son, once he got to college, I did feel that I could breathe a little easier because I didn't feel like I needed to be a mother 24/7. But that also gave me an opportunity to realize that I needed to start living my life, because it was so easy to live my life for my son, to live my life for my husband, for my siblings, for my dad when he was alive, you know, being able to take care of everybody, but taking care of me first. With that, I was able to realize, I said, you know, I need to start doing some things, which is where, you know, when my love of wine came about, and I started to explore that. You know, so, you know, you get out and you start meeting people, and you start seeing how other things are being done, and what other people are doing. You know, COVID, you know, gave me that entrepreneurial spirit that I had 15, 20 years ago that I completely forgot that I did have. Right. So now that has been renewed. So life has a funny way of waking you up.
Yeah.
Right. And letting you know that the doors are not always shut. Right. That tunnel is always just going to be the sides and the front and the back open. It's giving you an opportunity to know that there are windows and there are doors. Right. Sometimes you might pick the wrong door, and sometimes that window is going to be sealed shut, right? But that next one is going to open for you. And it may not open you into that big step, but it just might be enough to get you to start thinking and moving.
And it's so funny you said that, because I remember when I got my LLC, and I was talking to one of my best friends, and we worked together, and he said, "Oh, you're finally starting the business you talked about." And I said to him, just like you said, I have forgot that at one point I talked about being an entrepreneur, right? Because life just started to happen, and I just started going with the direction that life was taking me in, right? But I want to transition to you, Regina, because, you know, and I don't want to say this is a slump. So I kind of like the restocking your pantry, right? Because you recently had to restock your pantry, right? Because you recently got laid off, and you had to pivot and transition, right? And talk to us about that.
Yeah. I got laid off literally 2 weeks before my birthday.
Oh,
So I did have to. I was in that era of not era, but well, about retirement. You know, looking close to retirement. My plan was to retire, full on my business, working on my business, full on do my business full time. So when that happened, I started, okay, let me look for a job, let me do that. And then that didn't work out. I think I didn't really, I don't know what I felt. I felt relief when I got the call. It didn't bother me. It was kind of like a relief, like just like a, just breathe, no worries for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I said, well, maybe I should look for a job, but I wasn't serious. I mean, one of the questions I remember, I went on a job interview, and I think the question was, how do you motivate yourself? And I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the main questions interviewers like. I don't know why they love
Well,
that.
like, and no one had ever, at all my years of working, no one's ever asked me that. And I was like, what in the world? And I was like, I walk. And I'm like, that was the dumbest answer. And so I didn't know. So I told one of my, I told my son's like girlfriend that I said that. Here she is, a millennial. And I said, I think it was a dummy. And she said, well, I would have said I did. And what she said, what did she say? I journal, I do a vision board. I said, well, I know I did that. But I just, and so I was telling another friend, she said, "You don't want to work anymore." I said, "You're right." And so from that point on, I said, "Retirement." Because I wasn't interested, because I just didn't care. So that's when I knew I had to pivot, because
Mhm.
I went on a couple of interviews, and I think I talked to you, Theo. I just wasn't in it. I think I didn't care. I was like, and went on full. I just had to pivot the whole thing, and then I think from there it went smoothly. Right now, so much semi-retired. When I say semi-retired, I am retired, but I do work part-time, and I teach as a substitute teacher, and I absolutely love it.
Mm.
I didn't think I would like it. Today, my class, well, all week I work with special ed kids today,
Mm.
and I work with them all week. And I learn each kid. I do like elementary, because they kind of they still listen, and they're eager to learn, even though it's a different kind of kid than when we were younger. But they're they're pretty smart. And this kid I work with today, and not to mimic them, but he was kind of, I thought he was nonverbal, but he wasn't really talking. I don't think he's nonverbal, but he just was like would make noises. So another teacher came in to help me with him. And well, she came in to help, and she left out, and she said, "He's sitting in the corner doing math." And she said, "If you have any more trouble, come and get me." So I walked over to see what he was doing, and he was working with math. And so I started reading to him. Do you know this kid answered every question?
Mm.
Wow.
I said, "My goodness." And that was just so interesting to me. And so it just perked my like thinking, like, wow, I kind of would like to work with this type of kid.
Mhm.
So it gave me a whole different energy just being with him and knowing. So I start talking to him in a different way.
Mhm.
I no longer like, I didn't feel sorry for him, but I knew he understood. And I said, "No, you're not going to get away with him. This," and I would call his name. "No, come back over here and sit down. No, we're not going to do that. No, sir." And he'd go, "Ah," and then I would go, "Ah." So he go like this. At that point, no, you're playing games. You're smart. And I
Mhm.
know you're smart. I know you understand me. You went over there and did all your math. You understand everything I'm saying. And it was good. Like, it was just a good feeling. So it was just, I'm in a good place and going on with my business. So I'm just really in a good place, and it's a smart move for me.
Mhm.
And I can pick and choose. I can work when I want to, and don't have to work when I don't want to, and
Mhm.
still work on my business.
Nice.
So it was a good move.
So, ladies, as always, we have hit the hour. It went so quickly. And so, for those of you who have joined us, or those who will watch this on the replay, you are watching the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. And, we were just talking about what's in your pantry, right? Like, what have you been holding on to that you need to let go of, that possibly might have you in a slump, right? So,
Mhm.
what are some of the things that you need to do to shift, right, or pivot into what's next for you? And so, as we always do, as we come to the top of the hour, each of us will go around and we will give you our final word or thought, and then we will end the show. So I guess since I'm talking, I'll just go ahead and give my final thought. And I will say, one of the things that really came up for me when this topic was first broached was just the necessity to know when it's time to let go,
Mhm.
right? To release. I feel like in my experience, I feel like there have been certain periods where God has basically he's taken stuff or he's removed stuff
Mhm.
out of my fit, my atmosphere, or my frame, or from me, because I was holding on to it, right? And so now I'm in a point where I would say what we would call surrendering, right? To really trying to be
Yeah.
open to listening, hearing, and moving, right? When I feel God saying move, and staying still when I feel Him saying stay still. So what I would say to anyone out there that's really at this place of they're looking for a change or it's time for them to transition, um, just, learn how to be still.
Mhm.
And if you're a believer, because I know everybody's not a believer, right? But if you are a believer, learn how to be still and listen to hear from God, right? If you're not a believer, learn how to be still, right? To hear from whoever it is that you hear from, right? Not trying to be funny, but I think in most things, it's really just trying to make sure that when you move, you're moving in the right direction and it's aligned with your values and what you're passionate about. Because what you have heard each of us talk about here is that we are now moving into a space where we are doing things that we are passionate about. We are doing things that we wake up every day and we look forward to doing. And
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that we still don't do other things. Like Sheila and I and Gina still work full-time jobs, right?
Mhm.
And so everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur. Everybody doesn't want to be an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
But whatever it is that you decide to do, my final word to you is make sure it's something that aligns with your values and something that you're passionate about and something that feeds your mind and your spirit.
Mhm. Well, as we were having our chat about restocking your pantry, um, I was making a list of some of the things that we were talking about. And this list is not all inclusive, right? But these are some of the things that you can choose to restock your pantry with. And that would be commitment, mental and physical wellness, and right mindset,
Mhm.
adaptability, self love, self care,
Mm.
grace, healing, identity, accountability, authenticity, time, passion, talent, values, and most importantly, a relationship with a higher power. Because without that relationship, you can't restock that pantry. It's always going to be either empty or filled with the wrong things.
Mm.
Mhm.
Come on now, Junior Netta.
Professor, she's a professor. So,
Right.
I hadn't heard that in a while. Thank
Amen on that.
All right,
Uh,
Regina, Gina.
okay. You want to go, Regina?
I'll go. I got to follow the professor, okay? Because Netta done left now. She left us with the professor, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Uh, everything that's been said, but be true to yourself in the quietness of yourself, and um, that is what the noise is what I believe in. Stop the noise, get that all out, get the noise out of your head, be
Mhm.
still, and whatever you're passionate about, and let's in the quietness of yourself. I am a believer, so I am going to seek God. If you're not
Mm.
in the quietness of yourself, others they're not unbelievers. If you get to whoever your higher power is, like Theo said, and don't let other people get in your way or in your head, in your space, in your values, and that is how you get out of that slump and give yourself grace.
Mm. Grace. Gina.
So what I'm going to say is think about the shelf life you've given to things that haven't served you.
Mm.
How
Mm,
long are they going to hold space
Mhm.
in your pantry? Okay. Um, check the expiration date
mm,
Mhm.
on some of those things that have held you back.
mm,
Those thoughts that keep stopping you from taking that next positive step. Check those things. Check the expiration date of the things that do not serve you.
mm,
How long have they
Mhm.
been in your pantry taking up space?
Mm.
mm,
And if you know what you're looking at does not serve you or what you're about or what you want to do, and you have tried to, you've taken it off the pantry, then you put it back, I'm going to say for me, it was taking my concerns to God in prayer and speaking His word. Now, I don't know what that means for you who's listening, but I will say that if you cannot do it by yourself, then get the support, the proper support to help you get those stale, dated, unhealthy, unwelcome, unbeneficial thoughts out of your pantry so that you can replace it with the positive, with the I'm going to work towards ideas, with the things about you that are true and right and loving. Those are the things that you want to restock your pantry with. So check the shelf life of
Mhm.
the things that have held you back and give it an expiration to go, not to hold on to. That's what I
So,
have.
so Netta done left me with three professors, huh? Y'all all dropping gems tonight. But to those of you who are watching, this has been the Woman to Woman show on the New You Nation Network. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, you know, our mission and our goal is to speak positive affirmations and share positive information with the Gen X community, but we welcome anyone. But we are all Gen Xers. And so a lot of our topics will probably resonate more with Gen Xers, but we welcome everyone because we believe that something we say can help anyone from any generation. So tune in next week Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Woman to Woman show, where we will be discussing what's in your toolbox. So,
Ah,
ah. So we look
okay.
forward to seeing you next week. And thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Good night.